Hello, this is John, and you found my channel, John Reviews It. Today, we're going to talk about Southwest Audio Fest. So, I went to the show today on Friday. For the first time, it was actually pretty fun to go to something like this because I've never been to one. But I do want to talk about some things I saw while I was there. So, I'm going to kind of start with some things on we'll just stay the fourth floor here. Well, I should say second floor actually, because that's where you check in. That's where they actually had some actual rooms. So here's what I will tell you. On the second floor, you had a room that had, I believe it was with don't quote me on Next Level Hi-Fi. Actually, correction. It was actually Dreamscapes AV. They actually had a really nice surround sound room with turn-off gear, Kaleidoscape, and it was awesome. I enjoyed it. Of course, I like home theater stuff, so that was to be expected. There was a room from Next Level Hi-Fi. I thought it was really nice as well. As far as the other rooms, they didn't really catch my attention, so kind of didn't really get into those. Also, I checked out the Marketplace. Marketplace just kind of wasn't for me. There really wasn't nothing that was there being sold that would interest me. However, I would say maybe one item might interest me, which is the Snake River audio cables. Might want to check those out. I'm curious about those. And then we're going to go to the fourth floor. So I'm going to tell you about some of the stuff I saw there that I really liked. All right, so probably my favorite room on the whole floor, there was a Scott Walker room that had Sonus Faber speakers with Macintosh gear. Amazing. I loved it. I've had my eyes on Sonus Faber in the past. I really was thinking about getting some of those speakers instead of the Revels I bought. Am I disappointed that I bought the Revels? Absolutely not. I actually really love my Revels because I can actually do a full home theater. I don't think I would have been able to do it with the Sonus Faber the way I would have wanted. But for music, they were nice. Plus, they had a 6-pack of rail subwoofers on them, which they sounded amazing. I liked them a lot. One of the rooms I would say that was a little bit of a disappointment for me, there was I think it was a room hosted by 3MA, and it had kind of showed you some of the synergistic research products. That was pretty cool. I personally I could hear a little bit of a difference, but probably not much of a difference to make me want to spend that kind of money to get their expensive equipment. That's just my opinion. One of the bigger turnoffs when I was in the room, there was a gentleman that asked questions, and the rep wasn't exactly polite. He was kind of rude in a little bit of a way, in my opinion. But at the same time, when I walked in and through the whole time I was there, never once did I hear him say, "Hey, wait till the end of the demo to ask questions." So I can't fault the guy who wanted to ask a question during the middle of the demo for wanting to ask a question. But that's just me. But as far as all the Scott Walker rooms, they were actually really good. Next step after the fourth floor, they had stuff on the sixth floor. There was a Burmester room there. Those speakers, obviously hella expensive, but they were very nice. Another one of the crystal clear audio rooms they had Esoteric in it. Those were also really nice. I've never heard Esoteric at the same time. can't honestly say I've ever heard Burmester until today. They both sounded really, really great. Let's see. Also, on that same floor, they had a Giuselli Labs room. That actually sounded really awesome. That was really well put together. There was another Scott Walker room. This one had Magico speakers along with 2-rail subs. They sounded really good. Only thing I couldn't tell when I was listening to, or in that room listening, I couldn't tell if the rail subs were on. It looked like they should have been on, or I would have known they were on because they had little digital displays on the front of them, but I never saw it lit up, so I don't actually know if they were working or not. But if they weren't working, them Magico speakers were putting out some nice bass response. Then I went over to the 7th floor. So, 7th floor, the one that really stuck out to me was Pilot Radio. It's basically a newer, I guess, American company. According to what the rep told me, it looks like they had been out of business for quite some time and have finally decided to resurface. Their stuff looked pretty cool, so I would say definitely something I would want to check out. That's just me. So then I went up to the 8th floor, and there were actually a few rooms there that impressed me. There was one from Sharada Audio. So on that room, those speakers sounded pretty good, but the equipment had nice finishes on them that were just awesome. If you're a person who likes budget speakers, or actually a brand that I know has been around for a long time but you don't see too often, was here, and that was Cerwin-Vega. I was actually pretty impressed for something that, came off as party speakers. I do wish they did have the monitors they had, or I should say the studio monitors set up where you could hear them, and unfortunately at the time they didn't. Kind of sucked, but hey, nonetheless, fun room. It's great for those if you're not on a high budget but want something that looks cool, sounds cool. Cerwin-Vega, awesome. Like that room. And then there were 2 other rooms. One was the Legacy Audio room. I got to go to this room pretty early when the show started today. It was one of the first rooms I actually got to put in requests, and they kindly obliged to let me hear some music that I wanted to hear, which was awesome. And I did listen to some of their speakers. They were amazing. They sounded great. They also had some of their on-wall, in-wall options, as well as one of their center channels for the home theater. So, or I should say a couple of them for home theater use, and some bookshelves on display. So very nice room, very well set up, had a lot of fun with that room. Can't really complain about that. Then there was the 9th floor. Probably the room that probably stuck out the best to me was the Hagel room. The Hagel room sounded amazing. Not sure which integrated amplifier they had or what speakers they had, but boy, let me tell you, they were nice. They were very, very nice. And I will admit that Hagel integrated amplifier they had in the room was a nice beefy guy. So definitely impressed with that. So get to my book here and kind of tell you where I was at. So then there was the 10th floor. So they did have a home theater room in there, and that little Dreamscape room was actually really nice. Had a Trinoff home theater again, and it had some really nice speakers in there. It sounded really great. And then next door to them, they had a room from 11 Hi-Fi. Those guys actually had some Accuphase in there, and I had never heard Accuphase products before, but I will say they looked beautiful. They sounded great. I cannot really say anything bad about that room. And I actually got a brochure out of that room because they actually have some nice room treatments that I might actually be interested in checking out or trying to get my hands on, or seeing how expensive they are first, but then trying to get my hands on. Reason being, they actually give me the ability to put up, I guess you could say, room treatment that I can actually take down and put back up as needed. That way, when you're in an open space like I am in an apartment, I don't have to necessarily block any kind of walkways or anything, but I can still treat my room, and then when I need my space back, I can, obviously mark it off on the floor with some tape, painter's tape, so I know where to put them back every time. But at least it would give me an option to do room treatment in my apartment without having to permanently put something up. Other than that was my experience, Southwest Audio Fest. And also want to show you guys one thing here real quick. While I was at the All Elite Audio Room, I picked up a new little something, which I'm going to do an unboxing on. So get ready for that. So my next upload